Welcome back to the C Morning Show, everyone. As we approach the second half of our program, on a Monday morning, we always like to discuss interesting topics. Today, we're going to discuss human-wildlife conflict over land. And most recently, a video from TikTok account at afni.z is going viral.
The account owner is currently working as an advisor to the Indonesian Environment and Forestry Ministry.
In the video, Afni explained about elephant migration and underlined that the animals have set a path and therefore are not encroaching on human settlements on purpose. Now, this came as a response to concerns that wild elephants are disturbing the local populace.
A WWF Indonesia reports that habitat loss is the main problem for elephant conservation in Indonesia. As many as 81 to 82% of deforestation occurs in lowland forests, an important habitat for elephants.
Word to say it's actually a difficult reality for us to accept and to find out more about this ongoing human-wildlife conflicts and coexistence. Joining us this morning in the studio is wildlife veterinarian and Indonesian Wildlife Veterinarian Association, or Asli Kawan board member, Nur Purba Priambada. Good morning, doctor. Thank you for joining us today.
Good
Happy Monday.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this. I mean, this is something that has been ongoing and continues to do so. And since the human population does continue to increase as well, that means there's less and less space for our animal friends. So what's your take on this conflict and how it continues to shift more on the sides of humans as opposed to wildlife?
For first, maybe I have to talk about this because using the conflict term is sometimes a bit concerning because it's more like blaming to the wildlife.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And people just get reception like, okay, it's dangerous and stuff. And but we have to know how it's the story of the complicated story begin. It starts with how the human population is rising now, like 8 billion now. And then, of course, it's followed with the demands and supplies, and obviously we need more space for foods, plantations, energy, housing, settlements, infrastructure, and many others. And now we start to probably have to sacrifice the earth or nature because the space is limited, and there goes like converting the forest, which is actually was the home and habitat for the wildlife. And yes, now we live next to the wildlife, and then we have to adapt, and so do the wildlife. But the problem is how we react sometimes can become a problem also, because this is the start of the story begin. It can lead to more problem like, the wildlife raiding the crop or maybe breaking the facility.
Right.
Or maybe when, it's getting too concerned and then they start to labeling it as a pest and it's just a legitimate action to do the hunting. And then it will lead more again like the illegal wildlife trade, and then it can lead to other concerning like this.
So there are many side effects apart from the actual damage that it's causing to the wildlife itself. Wow, and that's what interesting point for you to bring up, the misuse of the word conflict, because when these wildlife ends up encroaching on human property or so-called human property, that's when they can be seen as being blamed, like, oh, they're taking away the crops, but we're taking over their land to begin with, right?
Yeah, and we need to coexist with them, actually. That's
For sure.
That's the main agenda. Now, I also want to know, I never lived close to wilderness. Why do locals often consider wildlife as enemies, making this coexistence with them is harder and difficult?
I also want to correct this because not only the local peoples, but also probably some institution that have business on this nature use activity. Probably the first is they don't know, they don't have any idea about how or what is wildlife role. So in the beginning, it's back on their own perception. Like probably they just like feel strange, weird, or afraid, or I don't know, and because there's lack of information about that.
Yeah.
But to be honest, in the local people, they have this local wisdom. Some of them think that the wildlife is part of their ancestry, so they have this kind of interaction that already built. But you know, now we got modernized, and there's people struggling with the economy and stuff, and there's lead to another behavior, probably like ignorance, because we heard the news that like macaques, wild boar, or maybe orangutan raiding the crops and everything.
They're looking for food.
Yeah, they're looking for food, but the food that people grows for their economy raid, or maybe like tiger and leopard kills people farms animals. We heard the news also, and then the worst part is like tiger killing humans, or maybe elephant pass by a village and then destroy it, and then this will become like you know, making a perception that
negative
this animal
stigma,
is dangerous and stuff. So I think that is the problem. People just only know that it's dangerous, but they don't know how, and they don't know why it can happen.
With this current situation, you mentioned so many things that are the reasons or the factors. But here in Indonesia, today, in 2023, what is the biggest factor that is affecting these, the reduction of land for wildlife right now?
That is the first time that I thought, because we demand for anything, and then we try to use the nature for the sake of the human, but we don't manage it wisely. So that's what's happening.
Okay, so we're not managing the current existing land as well in order for it to make it more habitable as well, because a lot of these animals, they're now migrating, right, to land that is available. And then if that land is not, let's say, doesn't have the food that they need, then they start having to search elsewhere as well. And this is what a lot of conservation agencies are doing. They're now preparing land that they may possibly migrate to if they are to take over a certain part of it.
Now, Dr. Purba, I also want to know, during your time in the International Animal Rescue Foundation, how did you rescue these animals that have been attacked by humans, and what are their condition then?
Okay, we not work by ourselves, we work together. Of course, the government lead everything. We work as in NGO as the partners, and then local people also have a contribution, because they have this awareness to find this unlucky wildlife and then report it to the government. Government contact us as part of expertise, and we did this rescue. Most of the time I work with primates, and like smaller primate like slow loris. Sometimes we found people try to hunt them just because for fun or something. Economy. So we found them have a wound like a gunshot, and then without even human hunt them, they sometimes found injured by the electricity. They have electrocution.
Oh, right, because they don't know what they are, right?
Yeah, and then in the other place, like my colleagues in Kalimantan, they found this problem with orangutan. It's also not easier to handle, because we have to control the mass. People is already upset and hate, and then we have to make them calm, and then also to rescue the animals, we have to do it very safely for the sake of everyone's life, because it's wildlife, and then it's bigger, and then they can be aggressive to defend themselves.
Of course.
Yeah, most of the time they are injured, sick. So we have to treat them first and rehabilitate them and then release. But if we're lucky they don't have any kind of problem, we have to think about to just translocate to the other place that's safe, and make sure they don't, passing those corridors again.
Oh, so when you put them back in the wild, do you monitor them?
For the one that we rehabilitate, most of the time we have to do the monitoring.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because we need to make sure, because they're
doing okay.
Because they have this kind of activity with humans before, so probably they have this kind of depending to humans, so we have to control them. But those that are live, that are wild, and straightly to translocate, I think we just monitor how do they crossing the border or not to the people's house.
Okay, when you say rehabilitate, is this physical rehabilitation or also rehabilitating them to be able to coexist with humans?
Physically and mentally.
Really? Okay.
Yes, so most of the time they have this mental breakdown.
Yes.
Just like in human, and then they're
Right.
sick. So we have to correct everything and then make sure they are already wild again. So some of them maybe had handicap or maybe injured, so they have to start to, doing like things like the wild animals do, and then try to make them not to be dependent to human, because in our rehabilitation facility, we still give them food.
Right. And then if that happens too much, then they'll stop learning how to hunt.
Yes, so that's why when we try to rehabilitate, we try to, give the care as much as closer like the wild.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
We give like real live foods,
Okay.
or maybe we have to train them to foraging, looking for foods, and
Instead of just serving up food on a platter.
and then make the enclosure as much as like the wild, like trees and tunnels and everything, just to hide and stuff. So just to make them, become wild again.
Right. So what are some of the areas that you've visited and covered throughout Indonesia in your time doing that?
If it's not about my own organization, I've been working like in many places, like in Sumatra, Kalimantan, but nowadays I was more work in West Java, especially in Bogor area, but
Really?
more in West Java.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems to be a lot of those cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's growing because everyone and every place is growing.
It's developing, right?
Yeah,
You see like
yeah.
more and more housing communities outside the city, and that
Yeah.
is obviously taking up
Yes.
land,
Yeah.
precious land.
It's gonna make a lot of problems. But Dr. Purba, I also want to know about the ones that are handicapped. What happened to them? Do
Depends.
It depends.
Depends. Sometimes we have to make sure they are still can be releasable, because we sometimes meet these wild animals that have a handicap problem also, then they can survive. So we have to make it really clear that they can, become a wild again and release and survive. But if there's not, we just, put them in this whole time care in the enclosure. But again, we have to make sure the welfare is as much as closer as the wild.
And I guess in your time doing this as well, you've also seen a lot of different incidences when it comes to these animals and humans. In your opinion, what are some of the things that we can do right now? I know long term it's just another whole conversation, but right now for humans and animals to better coexist?
Yeah, I guess the first is to respect the wildlife, to respect the nature. And with all these incidents, it's just consequences of how we interact with wildlife that we have to anticipate in some day, maybe later, but also this lesson learned to how we can plan better for sustainable use in nature.
Right.
And then
What are some of the examples of respecting wildlife? Like just for a regular person who, likes to go and visit, for example.
yeah, for the simple thing is do not littering.
Okay.
Do not feed the wildlife.
Yes.
And then just don't make them like more interact with you. Just some animals have interest with human.
Right.
But some is just like okay.
Just
And-
look from a safe distance.
Yes,
Leave them
don't
in the
have any
wild.
contact and stuff like
Exactly.
that. It's the simplest thing, and
Yeah.
don't be freaked out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because freak out is more of the things that starting how the conflict begins.
Of course.
Like snake, when we just like jump or just a shock and then surprise, and they just starting to attack because they think it
It's
was
prey.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So like that.
So my last question, Dr. Purba, I also want to know, for us living in the big city like
Yeah.
this, how can we contribute to this wildlife animals?
Yes, actually, to talk about this human conflict, it's not just in the deep forest, but also in the dense, like in Jakarta, in North Jakarta, they have like a place like the Muara Angke with the report
Yeah.
of the monkey, or maybe we have these reports of the snakes finding. So yes, we need to concern and know how is the role of wildlife for sure, and then know how to interact and like that. So it's the easiest, not littering.
Again.
So it's just a simple thing, and yeah, we just try to keep to educate ourselves, and then try to spreading the message also.
And you know, there's a whole burst of new development housing complexes. Usually, that's being done on land that has been uninhabited for a while.
Yeah.
So you'll see reports, like the first few years of where a complex is newly built, especially large ones, that a neighbor will like spot a snake. Happened in my old complex as well.
Mine too.
Yeah,
But the best thing to do is there's a WhatsApp group, share the number of somebody who can come and then take them away safely.
Yeah.
Like, don't try to bash it over the head or something like that yourself because you
Yeah,
think, oh, it's in
yeah.
my house, that's my house, I'm protecting my house.
Yeah,
Well, actually, they were there first. So
Yeah,
you need
yeah,
to remember
yeah.
that. Just keep, I always keep a contact for like things like that.
Yeah,
Either
true.
exterminators or people who are able to wildlife.
Firefighters sometimes helping.
Really?
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't know
We can just call them and they can help in the first
Ah.
place. It's safer than we just trying to do
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
this heroic
Agree.
stuff and then we
my
get
God.
something bad.
Yeah.
I don't have the courage to
No.
go near a snake. No.
So, Dek, thank you so much for your
Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome.
insights as
Appreciate
well as your
this.
efforts. We all
Yeah.
do appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Now, that's our first talk show of the day. Now let's take a break, but we will have more updates from around the world when we return, so stay with us.